About a year ago, Kimber announced that they would be producing a .357 Magnum 2-inch barreled snub-nose revolver called the K6s. This is a first for Kimber, who is mostly known for their 1911s, but the K6s now has them competing with other small steel frame revolvers like the Ruger SP101, the Smith & Wesson J-frames, and as of last week, the new Colt Cobra. These revolvers are all roughly the same size and weight, and when you look at variants with comparable features, they are fairly close in price as well. The most notable difference is that the Kimber and the Colt have a 6-round capacity, while the more established Ruger and Smith & Wesson only hold 5 shots. The K6s has an internal hammer, making it a double action only design. Not everyone is going to love the absence of an exposed hammer that can be cocked for single action, but I consider it a huge asset in a carry revolver to help ensure a snag-free draw stroke. The hammerless design is complemented by a frame that has been completely dehorned, so there are no sharp edges or corners to catch on clothing. The sights are also low profile, but unlike most small revolvers, they are replaceable. The front sight is held in place by a pin in the top of the barrel, and the dovetail rear sight is drift adjustable for windage. Both sights come with a black serrated face, but I have painted the front sight to improve visibility. The checkered cylinder release latch is activated by pressing inward, similar to the double action Rugers. The chambers are recessed so that the cartridges sit flush with the top of the cylinder. Kimber quietly started shipping the K6s sometime in the middle of 2016, but in very small numbers. So far, it's been tough to find one for sale, and price tags often far exceed the $900 suggested retail price. Kimber offered to loan us one to review, but said they would have to get caught up with production first, and since we had no idea how long that would take, we just decided to track one down ourselves and pay full retail. So, over the past couple of months, I've had a chance to put a few hundred rounds through this gun. Now that's really just the beginning of the testing that we would like to do with the K6s, but I've had enough time with it so far to form a few first impressions. The trigger is really the standout feature. It's a very smooth 10-pound double action pull with no stacking. I'm not exaggerating when I say that it is easily the best factory trigger I've used on a small frame revolver. Kimber put a lot of their engineering effort into making sure the trigger was usable right out of the box, and that seems to have paid off. It's still going to be a challenge for anyone who is not already comfortable with double actions, but it's a major improvement over the competition. I really appreciate that Kimber equipped this gun with sights that can be adjusted and replaced, but I'm not a fan of the default black on black sights. Even with some bright paint on the front sight, they are still relatively short and not the easiest to use. Fortunately, Kimber has announced 4 new models coming out that have different sight options, including a fiber optic front sight, a set of taller 3-dot sights, tritium night sights, and even a set of crimson trace laser grips. Hopefully, these sights will soon be made available as standalone options for those of us who want to upgrade the original sights. The rubber grip that comes with the Kimber is a decent size and shape that's both concealable and functional, but I'm kind of particular about revolver grips, and this one is really not ideal for my hands. The ability to change grips to suit the user is usually one of the major advantages of revolvers, but again, there's nothing else available for the Kimber, at least not yet. I'd like to see some Hogue tamer grips like the ones made for the Ruger LCR that cover the backstrap and add some girth to the grip. The lack of aftermarket support is really the biggest problem with the Kimber right now, and that's to be expected with a gun that's barely in production. So for now, the holster I've been using is an SP101 appendix holster that kinda mostly fits the Kimber. I've got some Colt Detective Special speed loaders from 5 Star Firearms that are actually the same as the K6s branded loaders that Kimber sells on their website. But realistically, if I were to carry extra ammo with this revolver, it would be on a speed strip. Kimber includes a 6-shot speed strip with the K6s, but I prefer a larger 7 or 8-shot strip so I can space the rounds out for easier loading. Recoil is what you would expect with a small steel frame revolver. It's far easier on the shooter than an alloy or polymer frame snubby, but more difficult to manage than a mid-size revolver like a Smith & Wesson K-frame. The K6s is chambered for .357 Magnum, and unlike the airweight revolvers, shooting Magnums does not feel like it's going to shatter your hand. But it's still not exactly pleasant, and I would not recommend actually carrying the gun with Magnum ammo anyway. When you go to a 2-inch barrel, .357 loses a lot of velocity and effectiveness, but still delivers excessive recoil. Follow-up shots are going to be slow, and for most people, accuracy will suffer as well. A small steel frame revolver like this is perfect for .38 Special Plus P defensive ammo. I fired several 5-round groups from a bench rest at 25 yards to test the accuracy of the K6s. Most of the loads I tested gave me groups between 3 and 5 inches, which is not bad at all for a snub nose. When we first started testing, this K6s was shooting about 3 inches to the left at just 10 yards, so I had to make some windage adjustments. I know very few gun manufacturers actually sight in their guns at the factory, but the rear sight was visibly off-center in the dovetail, so that's kind of disappointing. And that leads me to a question I know a lot of people are wondering about the K6s. Even if Kimber has designed a good revolver, can they mass produce a good revolver? It is well known among discerning 1911 shooters that Kimber's quality control is not awesome. Stuff like misaligned sights might not seem like a big deal, but it's not encouraging in light of Kimber's reputation. And unfortunately, that's not the only issue that I have noticed. There is a little ridge here around the cylinder release, and if you look closely, there is some excess jagged metal there. On the right side of the revolver, it's a clean line all the way around, but on the left side, someone clearly forgot a step at the factory, and nobody managed to catch the mistake before the gun went out the door. It's a small thing and it's really just cosmetic, but it's that kind of sloppiness that I find a little troubling. I'm really trying not to judge Kimber too harshly. I like the K6s, and mechanically, this one has not had any problems at all. But this is just a sample size of one. As Kimber starts ramping up production on these things, I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to what other K6s owners have to say about their experiences. I'm also going to keep shooting this one, and I will try it with new grips and new sights whenever the aftermarket catches up, so I can get back to you guys with an update. We've got some additional info on the K6s today that we didn't fit into the video. That is on our blog and includes details from our accuracy tests, a look at the gun's internals, and some of my thoughts on carrying a small steel frame snub nose. You can find that link below or in the video description. And as always, if you guys like this review and you want to support our channel, please buy some ammo from luckygunner.com.